Now, across Texas, the issue is.
I'm Rudy Koski in Austin.
I'm Greg Krugen in Houston. Stephen Dial has the night off, and this is Texas, the issue is.
The issue that we're discussing right now is spinning up and brewing like a storm in the Gulf, the coming fight in the state legislature over school vouchers. Earlier this month, Governor Greg Abbott held a news conference and essentially declared victory. Abbott claims he now has enough votes to push a plan through the State House and to his desk. But voucher opponents like State Representative James Talarico are not giving up the fight. I spoke to the Round Rock Democrat about the coming debate and if a compromise can happen.
I think the fight to save public education will be the #1 issue in the next legislative session.
And we will also ensure that every parent has the right to choose the school that's best for their child by passing universal school choice in the state of Texas.
Majority of the counties in the state of Texas don't have a single private school in them. And the cost of the voucher doesn't even cover the full cost of tuition at most private schools in Texas. So working class families like the ones in my district or like my former students on the west side of San Antonio, they can't take advantage of this voucher scam. And so instead, the vast majority of the money will end up going to wealthy families who are already sending their kids to private school.
The governor has spent the past several months doing what some would describe as a revenge tour, going after rural Republicans who were part of this pro-education, bipartisan blocking coalition. They're gone. You've lost them. He says he has the numbers.
So counting what I call only true hardcore school choice proponents, there are 79 votes in favor in the Texas House. It takes 76 votes to get it passed.
Are you throwing up the white flag?
Not at all. We didn't lose all of them, despite the onslaught of big money and big lies into these Republican districts. You still had pro-public education Republican legislators survive and are coming back to the Capitol this session. You know, I'm thinking about Drew Darby and Stan Lambert and Gary Van Dever.
There was a tidal wave of support for those House candidates that I supported.
Despite the victories that the governor may have scored in this election cycle, this should not be mistaken for a mandate on private school voucher scams. The governor didn't campaign on vouchers. The majority of Texans, according to the latest polling, reject private school voucher scams.
We will fully fund public schools in the state of Texas. We will provide teacher pay raises as well as teacher incentive pay to make sure we have some of the best paid teachers in the United States of America. We will enhance career and job skill training programs to ensure that for the kids who do not want to go on to a college, they will be able to go on to a high-paying job here in the state of Texas where there's high demand from some of the best employers in America.
Is there ground for compromise in this debate?
You know, I think a voucher is bad public policy any way you cut it. So I will never support a voucher scam. But if my colleagues in the House, Republicans and Democrats, if we can all agree that we need to fully fund our neighborhood public schools, then I will work with anyone to make that a reality.
Well, this certainly could be a David versus Goliath battle, or maybe another Mike Tyson fight that just kind of slugged along. So my word is eggs. Greg, do you have a word for that interview?
Rudy, my word is long shot, and that's being generous.
Well, we'll be right back in a moment to discuss how the school choice fight is shaping up. Greg and I are back to discuss the looming school choice fight in the state legislature. Paul Castro, a Houston charter school superintendent, he's also here to join this discussion. Greg, I'll start with you first. Representative Talarico indicated Governor Greg Abbott is counting his chickens before his eggs hatch, which is why eggs, my word today. If another convoluted, expensive school choice plan is pitched again without money for rural schools, is Talarico right? Will he gain enough defectors to build a new roadblock, Greg?
Rudy, no offense to Talarico, but it's just wishful thinking. Greg Abbott is the most popular statewide leader in Texas by a long shot. Now, if we've learned anything at all over the past 2 years, it is this. Greg Abbott has expended untold political capital and spent millions of dollars to get school choice done. It's beyond policy now, it's personal, intensely so. The governor has taken political scalps already and is clearly prepared to take more. So any Republican who crosses him on school choice this next session might as well shred their proposed legislation and pack their bags. Maybe I'm wrong, but I just don't see 4 or 5 R's willing to die on that hill. Now, Paul Castro, let's just assume I'm right and some kind of universal voucher system makes it through with, let's just say, a $10,000 per student stipend. What are the most significant ramifications you see?
Well, I think the number one issue that will come out of this is there will be a number of students and parents who will choose to go to those voucher schools. So the number of students who are going to be educated in the traditional ISD system is going to drop. The second thing that's going to happen is going to be financial. $10,000 a student coming straight out of the state funding is going to be a significant hit on the state budget. Right now, that money is not there. If it gets allocated over the number of years that this is going to go on, we're talking about adding 10 to 20% of the current expenditures being added on top of that for vouchers. And that's going to doubtlessly have an impact on the budget, and future legislators and taxpayers are going to have to pay.
Yeah, I agree with what Paul is saying there. And as I mentioned earlier, previous attempts to pass school choice legislation were really not true school choice bills, that being your money following your child. The failed plans involve creating a new budget line item that Paul mentioned, millions of tax dollars to fund a limited number of vouchers, and a thing called education savings accounts, ESAs, opening up the door for homeschoolers and expenditures that just frankly went beyond tuition. Greg, the devil is in the details. Are any of your sources worried that this hard push by Abbott could backfire?
Rudy, it depends on who you're talking to. Clearly, dozens of other states have adopted a form of choice, and their public school systems have not collapsed. You mentioned homeschoolers. I've heard from folks deeply concerned about unscrupulous and dysfunctional parents gaming the system for a payday at their kids' expense. On the flip side, I've heard from people who believe the competition created by choice is just the kind of kick in the pants lackadaisical public school districts need to elevate their game. Now, I also think it's disingenuous to claim the lion's share of vouchers will be subsidizing students already attending shiny shoe, high dollar private schools. But to answer your question, I've heard from no one who believes vouchers will be successfully torpedoed again, unless House Speaker Dade Phelan gains re-election and falls on the sword for the public school lobby.
I don't know. The devil is still in the details. It sounds good in the broad picture, but man, when you start getting into the details, questions happening. And Talarico is even calling for school choice, his own definition that expands funding for the existing system. Paul, what are other charter school operators saying about that prospect?
Well, it was interesting to hear him say that. I do think there's starting to be an understanding amongst those who are against and opposed to school vouchers that there might be an opportunity for a win. One of the biggest reasons that people want to go the voucher route is choice. And part of that choice for a lot of parents is avoiding the STAR test and other state accountability measures. I think a lot of public school operators and charter school operators like me would be very interested in a system that provides funding at a dollar amount that's been mentioned, $10,000, while removing a lot of the oversight and compliance requirements that are quite honestly very expensive and problematic. If we are allowed that same avenue, I think you would find everybody wanting to say, yeah, sign me up, allow me to be a part of that system, give me the $10,000 a kid. I think what's going to eventually happen is the number of dollars needed to pay for that child, that child's voucher, is going to eventually go up and match essentially what it costs to educate a kid, which is a little bit shy of $15,000 per student per year.
Greg, do you think that they're going to start small like they initially tried in the previous sessions and then kind of go big, or do you think that they're just going to go and throw a Hail Mary pass and say, here it is, universal?
I think they're going big, Rudy. They're not playing anymore. And remember, I believe Dan Patrick called this one of his top priorities. So this is going to get done.
All right, we'll end it with that. You can see this interview or any of our past interviews by going to our YouTube pages.
And the Fox Texas Trio is taking a break from politics for the Thanksgiving weekend. And frankly, you should too. We'll see you in December. And in the meantime, don't forget to let us know what you think the issue is.